I didn't call anyone. I just grabbed my jacket off the hook by the door and walked out into the dark. It was 2:17 in the morning. I know because I'd been lying awake anyway, the way I do most nights since my wife passed 4 years ago. The house gets loud when it's quiet, if that makes any sense. Every creak of the floorboards, every car that rolls past the window. I was just lying there staring at the ceiling fan when my phone lit up the whole room. My son's name. That's all I needed to see. He never calls me that late. Not once in 31 years. I answered before the second ring. Dad. His voice was low, almost a whisper, like he didn't want someone nearby to hear him. Dad, I need you to come get me. I sat up. What's wrong? Where are you? I'm at the house. Diane's parents' house. We came for the weekend. And, Dad, I can't explain right now, just please come. Please. I heard something in the background. A door. A woman's voice, sharp and close. Then the call cut off. I was already pulling on my shoes. My son is 31 years old. He has a master's degree in civil engineering. He coaches Little League on weekends. He is not a man who calls his father at 2 a.m. and whispers. That's not him. That's not who I raised. So when I heard that voice, when I heard that fear tucked underneath the words he was trying to keep calm, I didn't stop to think. I didn't make tea. I didn't sit down and weigh my options. I grabbed my jacket and I drove. The Whitmore house is 40 minutes from mine on a normal day. I made it in 28. I'm not proud of that, but I'm not sorry either. Walter Whitmore is what people in this town call established. He was a regional VP at a commercial real estate firm for 20-something years, made a lot of money in the 90s, built a house on a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood where all the mailboxes match. His wife Lorraine runs the HOA and goes to church every Sunday and has a smile that never quite reaches her eyes. My son Nathan met their daughter Claire at a company retreat 5 years ago. I liked Claire just fine. Still do, if I'm honest. I always thought she got a little lost inside that family. When I pulled up to the house, every downstairs light was on. I didn't slow down to appreciate the landscaping. I walked straight to the front door and knocked. Not gently. The rain opened it before my knuckles finished the second knock. She was dressed, which struck me as odd for 2 a.m. Hair done, earrings in, like she'd been expecting company. Theodore. She used my full name. Nobody calls me that. Even my late wife called me Theo. It's the middle of the night. I'm here for my son, I said. Nathan is fine. Everyone is fine. There's no reason for you to be here. She moved to close the door. I put my hand on the frame. Lorraine, I said slowly, my son called me. His voice sounded wrong. I am not leaving this porch until I see him with my own eyes. She looked at my hand on the doorframe like it was something offensive. You're being dramatic. Nathan and Claire had a disagreement. It's a private matter between husband and wife. This doesn't concern you. He's my son. It concerns me. He's a grown man. She crossed her arms. And you showing up here in the middle of the night is not helping anything. I think you should go home, Theodore. Get some rest. We'll all talk in the morning like adults. Something moved behind her. A shadow in the hallway. Nathan. I raised my voice past her. Nathan, I'm here. Lorraine shifted to block my view. She was a small woman, but she planted herself like she'd grown roots. You need to lower your voice, she said. My husband is sleeping. Then wake him up, I said, because I'm not leaving. That's when Walter appeared. He came down the hallway in his robe, slow and deliberate, the way men do when they want you to know they're not rattled. It was a big man, broad across the shoulders, the kind of guy who'd been intimidating in his 50s and was still trying to trade on it at 68. "Theo," he said, like we were old friends. We were not old friends. "Come on now. You're going to wake the whole street. Where is my son?" "He's upstairs, cooling off." Walter did a small shrug, the kind that says, "This is nothing. You know how it is. Young couples, they get heated. It blows over." He called me. He overreacted. Walter's voice was smooth and steady. "Look, I get it. You're a protective father. I respect that. But Nathan is fine, Claire is fine, and the best thing you can do right now is let them work through this themselves. Come back tomorrow, we'll have coffee." I looked at him for a long moment. 31 years ago, I was in a delivery room when Nathan came into this world 6 weeks early. He weighed 4 pounds, 14 ounces. They put him in the NICU, and I sat in a plastic chair outside that glass window for 9 days straight. My wife would spell me for a few hours each night so I could sleep in the car. I ate vending machine sandwiches, and I talked to my son through the glass, and I told him he was going to be fine even though I didn't know that, because that's what fathers do. I was not going home without seeing him. "Tell him to come down here," I said. "Just let him come stand in this doorway and tell me himself that he's fine, and I will go home and I will never mention this again." Walter looked at Lorraine. Something passed between them, something fast and practiced, the kind of look married people develop over decades. "Nathan isn't available right now," Lorraine said. "What does that mean?" "It means he and Claire are talking and they don't want to be interrupted." "Then why," I said, "is every light in your house on at 2 in the morning?" Neither of them answered. I took one step over the threshold. Walter put his hand on my chest. Flat palm. "You're trespassing." I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. "Move your hand," I said quietly. "I'll call the police." "Then call them." He didn't move his hand. I moved it for him. I stepped past him into the hallway, and I called my son's name again, louder this time, and I heard it from somewhere above me, muffled, from behind a closed door. I heard my son say, "Dad." That was enough. I took the stairs 2 at a time. Lorraine was calling something behind me, I don't know what. Walter was shouting about property rights and trespassing and a word that rhymes with crazy. I wasn't listening. I was counting doors. 3 on the left, 2 on the right, and the light was on under the second one on the right, and that's where I went. I knocked once. "Nathan." His dad. "Open the door." A pause. Then the click of a lock turning. He opened the door, and I understood immediately why his voice had sounded wrong on the phone. His bottom lip was split. There was dried blood on his chin. His left eye was swollen, not completely shut, but heading there, already purpling at the edges. He was holding his right arm against his side in the way people do when their ribs hurt. I have been angry before in my life. Real anger. The kind that comes from grief and helplessness and love, all tangled together until you can barely see straight. I had not felt it like this in a very long time. I stepped into the room and I put my hands on either side of his face, careful around the eye, and I looked at him. "Who did this?" I said. It wasn't a question. He glanced past me into the hallway. I turned. Walter was standing at the top of the stairs, arms crossed, face unreadable. Claire was behind Nathan, sitting on the edge of the bed, her face pale, her hands twisted together in her lap. She hadn't been crying. Or maybe she'd stopped a while ago and run dry. "It was an accident," she said, very quietly. "Claire." I kept my voice gentle. That's not what an accident looks like. We should call 911, Nathan said. Yes, I said. We absolutely should. You will not call anyone from this house, Walter said from the doorway. I turned to face him fully. In my working life, I was a high school history teacher for 27 years. I am not a large man. I am 63 years old with bad knees and reading glasses on a chain around my neck. I don't frighten people. But right then, Walter took a small step back. My son is injured, I said. I am calling 911, and then you and I are going to have a very different kind of conversation. I called from the hallway while Nathan sat on the edge of the bed, and I kept one eye on the door. The dispatcher was calm, professional. She said officers in an ambulance were on the way, estimated 12 minutes. Those 12 minutes were the longest of my life. Lorraine came upstairs and stood in the hall and talked in a low, urgent voice to Walter, and twice she looked over at me with an expression I can only describe as calculation. She wasn't scared. She was thinking. That was almost worse. The officers arrived with the ambulance. 2 young men, professional and thorough. They took one look at Nathan and started asking questions. They separated us, which is what they do. Put me in the hallway, and a third officer took Walter and Lorraine downstairs. The paramedics came up, and I watched them examine my son from just outside the room. 2 cracked ribs. The orbital bone around his left eye was intact, just bruised. The lip would need a stitch or 2. The officer who took my statement was patient and wrote everything down. When I finished, he asked if I wanted to press charges for the trespassing, and I said no. That wasn't why I'd come. He nodded like he understood. What I didn't know yet, what I wouldn't find out until the next morning, was what was happening downstairs while I stood in that hallway. Walter Whitmore had spent 20-some years in commercial real estate. He knew how to talk to people. He knew which words to use and how to use them. He told the officer that I had pushed him, that I had entered his home without permission, that I had been verbally threatening and erratic. He was calm and even toned and reasonable, the way he always was, the way he had practiced being for decades. And the officer downstairs wrote it down. Nathan was taken to the ER. I rode in the ambulance with him because he asked me to, and I wasn't going to say no. Claire said she would follow. She didn't. At the hospital, they got Nathan into a room and worked on his lip and wrapped his ribs and gave him something for the pain. He fell asleep about an hour in. I sat in the chair beside the bed and I looked at my son sleeping under the fluorescent lights, and I thought about that NICU window 31 years ago and my hand shaking against the glass. A nurse came to check his chart and glanced at me. You his dad? Yes, ma'am. She patted my shoulder once and left. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't open it. I'm glad I did. Mr. Hartley, my name is Donna Price. I'm Claire's aunt. I know what happened tonight. I know what's been happening for a long time. I have things you need to see. Please call me. I looked at that message for a full minute. Then I looked at my son. The bruising around his eye had deepened in the last hour. In sleep, with his face relaxed, he looked like he was 12 years old again. The kid who used to fall asleep on the couch during ball games, who I'd carry upstairs and put to bed without waking him. I stepped into the hallway and called Donna Price. She answered on the first ring. She had been estranged from the Whitmore family for 11 years. She'd left when she couldn't anymore, she told me, when she realized that the stories her sister Lorraine told about various family situations never quite matched what she'd seen with her own eyes. She said she'd watched Claire grow up in that house and had worried for years. She said she'd tried to talk to Claire 3 times in the past 2 years, and Claire had changed her number after the second time. What she had were photographs, text messages, a voicemail she'd saved on an old phone and never deleted, Because she had a feeling, she said, she just had a feeling she might need it someday. The voicemail was Walter Whitmore's voice, clear as anything, threatening her, specifically and without ambiguity, in terms that any jury in the country would understand. "I need to talk to a lawyer," I said. "I have one for you," she said. "She's been waiting." I'm not a man who moves fast on big decisions. I'm a history teacher. I like to research things, think them over, make a list. My wife used to tease me about it. She said I'd take 20 minutes to decide what to order at a diner. I called the lawyer before I went back into Nathan's room. Her name was Patricia Owens, and she had been practicing family law and civil litigation in our county for 19 years. Donna had given her the basic outline already. Patricia's voice was brisk and clear, not unkind but not soft either, the kind of voice that doesn't waste time. She told me what Walter had told the police downstairs. She told me that technically a complaint had been filed against me for trespassing and menacing. She said we needed to act before morning. "The photographs," she said, "and that voicemail, those change everything." We met at the hospital at 5:30 in the morning. Patricia Owens came in a blazer over a button-down shirt, carrying a leather folder and a cup of gas station coffee. And she shook my hand and sat down, and within 45 minutes she had reviewed everything Donna had brought and made 4 phone calls. She filed a report on Nathan's behalf with the documentation of his injuries and Donna's evidence. She contacted the officer who had taken Walter's statement downstairs and formally introduced the counterclaims. She also placed a call to an attorney in the city who apparently knew Walter Whitmore by professional reputation in ways that were not flattering. "He's done this before," Patricia said simply. "Not to Nathan, but the pattern is there." Nathan woke up around 7. His eye was worse, but his color was better. I told him what we'd done. He was quiet for a long time. "Claire," he finally said, "I know. She didn't come. I know, son." He looked at the ceiling. "She knew what her dad was. She always knew. I think she didn't know how to be outside of it." I didn't say anything. I thought he was probably right. I thought it was the saddest thing I'd heard in a long time. 2 days later, Walter Whitmore was formally questioned by the county sheriff's department in connection with Nathan's injuries. The complaint against me, the trespassing claim, the menacing claim, was reviewed in light of the counterclaims and the documentation and was quietly dropped. Quietly is the right word. Nobody from the Whitmore side called to say so. Patricia told me Walter retained his own attorney, a man from a firm downtown who had done work for his real estate company for years. It wasn't enough. The voicemail alone was enough to make that very clear, very fast. The civil matter took 4 months to work through. I won't go into every detail because most of it is legal language and paperwork and conference calls, and that's not the part of the story that matters. What matters is this: Claire filed for divorce in month 2. She called Nathan from her Aunt Donna's house, where she'd been staying since the night at the hospital. The call lasted 2 hours. I know because Nathan sat in my kitchen the whole time, walking slow circles around the table, talking low into his phone. He came and found me on the back porch after. It was a Tuesday evening in October, the air finally turning. The oak tree in the yard that my wife planted the year Nathan was born going yellow at the edges. "She's getting out," he said. "Good," I said. He sat down in the chair next to mine, and we sat there for a while in the quiet. "I should have called you sooner," he said. "You called me when you needed to. I mean sooner than that, months sooner. I kept thinking I could handle it, that it would get better, that I don't know. I didn't want to worry you." I looked at the tree. "Your mother planted that oak the spring you came home from the hospital. It was about 8 inches tall. I told her it would take decades before it gave any real shade. I paused. She said that was okay because we weren't going anywhere. He was quiet. You can always call me, I said. That's all I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter what time it is or what I'm in the middle of. You can always call. He nodded slowly. He was looking at the tree, too. The oak was maybe 30 feet tall now. Full shade, late afternoon light coming through the leaves. My wife would have liked to see it. We sat there until the sun was gone and the yard went dark and the air smelled like October and dry leaves and the neighbor's wood smoke from down the block. My son didn't go home. He stayed for dinner, and we ate leftovers at the kitchen table and talked about nothing in particular, and it was the best evening I'd had in 4 years. Some things don't get fixed. I know that. Nathan's marriage was over, and that was its own kind of grief, separate from the anger. Something quieter and harder to name. Claire was out of that house, and that was the right thing, and Nathan knew it even while it hurt. Walter Whitmore agreed to a settlement to avoid trial. Part of that settlement involved a formal acknowledgement of what had happened, in language that Patricia said was unusually direct for these kinds of agreements. I don't know what it cost him in dollars. I know what it cost him in the way people in this town looked at him after. I'm not a man who takes pleasure in other people's suffering. I want to be clear about that. I taught history for 27 years, and if there's one thing history teaches you, it's that there's no such thing as a clean win. Every story has costs on all sides, but I will say this. When Patricia called me to say it was done, I walked out to the backyard and stood under that oak tree in the afternoon light, and I breathed. My son is okay. That's the whole thing, really. That's the beginning and the end of it. He comes for dinner most Sundays now. He's been talking about some things. A new project at work, a hiking trip out west he's thinking about, maybe going back for his PE license. He sounds like himself again. He sounds like the kid who used to fall asleep on the couch, who I'd carry up to bed, who came into this world at 4 pounds 14 ounces and scared me more than anything ever has before or since. I still lie awake most nights. The house is still loud when it's quiet, but when my phone lights up now and I see my son's name, I just smile, because he calls to talk, not because he's afraid, just because he wants to. That's everything. People ask me sometimes what I would have done differently, and I've thought about it. I really have. I'm the kind of man who second-guesses himself, who replays conversations in the shower 3 days after they happen, but when I run that night back through my mind, I keep arriving at the same place. I wouldn't change a thing, not because everything went smoothly. It didn't. I got a trespassing complaint filed against my name. I stood in a hospital hallway at 4 in the morning, eating a granola bar from the vending machine, wondering if I'd made things worse. There were moments that night where I had no idea how any of it was going to land. But here's what I have come to understand. At 63 years old, after raising a son and burying a wife and teaching other people's children for nearly 3 decades, the people who cause harm rarely do it in a single dramatic moment. Walter didn't become who he was overnight, that kind of control. The quiet, deliberate kind. The kind that wears a blazer and speaks in reasonable tones. That gets built over years. It gets practiced. It learns which words to use and which doors to stand in front of. And the reason it survives as long as it does is because everyone around it keeps deciding that confronting it is more trouble than it's worth. I almost made that same decision when Walter put his hand on my chest and said the word trespassing. There was a part of me, the part that doesn't like conflict, that spent 27 years trying to be patient and fair and measured. That part almost took a step back, almost said, "Okay, I'll wait until morning. I'll let the adults sort it out. And then I thought about Nathan's voice on that phone. That whisper. The choices we make in the moments that matter don't come from nowhere. They come from everything we've built up to that point. Every time we told the truth when it was easier not to. Every time we showed up when it cost us something. Every time we let our kids see what it actually looks like to care about someone. Nathan called me at 2 a.m. because somewhere in his 31 years he learned that I would come. I don't take credit for that. I just tried to be consistent. That's the only thing I know how to do. And Walter, whatever he thought he'd built, whatever he believed his money and his reputation and his calm, reasonable voice had secured for him, none of it held. Not because the universe is fair. The universe is not fair, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling something. It held because Donna kept a voicemail, because Patricia Owens had been doing this work for 19 years, because Claire finally found a door she could walk through. Actions accumulate, the things people do in private, the ways they treat the people they think are beneath them or trapped or too afraid to speak. Those things don't disappear. They just wait. I think about Nathan sitting across from me at my kitchen table on a Sunday evening, talking about a hiking trip out west, looking like himself again. That didn't happen by accident. It happened because he called, and I came, and we fought for it, and we didn't stop until it was done. That's the only lesson I've got. Show up. Don't wait for morning. And when someone you love is scared enough to whisper your name at 2 a.m., you already know what to do.